Here's why you should celebrate Halloween as a Christian. It's not pagan, it's not evil, it's not satanic, and we're going to tell you why. Peace be with you.
Sunum bonum, peace be with you.
So in this episode we're going to talk about Halloween. Why do we celebrate it as Christians? Talking about the history of the word Halloween, debunking certain myths about it, what it is, what it's not, church history revolving around the holiday, and so forth. So I'll start with talking about Halloween, what the meaning of the word Halloween means. So Halloween is derived from the root meaning All Hallows Eve, and hallow just simply means holy.
In Our Father.
In Our Father.
Hallowed be thy name, holy.
Yep. So that's all that means. We're honoring all that is holy, right? All souls that are holy that have passed on, who have died. Now, originally in the early church, Halloween, the celebration, celebrated martyrs specifically. So people who have died for the faith.
And it started, obviously Catholicism was everywhere in Europe.
Right.
But it was actually from local churches in Germany that started it.
Mm-hmm.
And Pope Gregory III was the one that started it as doctrine, which means November 1st is you're praying and you're celebrating saints that are in heaven.
All Saints Day.
All Saints Day. And November 2nd is All Souls Day. So we're praying for people that just died. They're in purgatory.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know what's going on, but we're going to pray for them.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 days.
So there's a little distinction there, you can see, yeah.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. And then, like I said, Halloween, October 31st, is the eve of all of this celebration. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So, All Saints Day, as you said, comes from the early church's desire to honor the saints. Also, All Souls Day, as we said, honors all souls, so those in heaven, those in purgatory.
And just to bring up the candy idea.
Yeah.
It's commercialized, but it's not as commercialized as you think.
Yeah. Talk about
In the Catholic Church, out of charity, we would give people food. And you would give them food, and they would pray for those souls that might be in purgatory or for the saints. So that's kind of where that came from. That was a European tradition. And just to kind of go at with the candles, praying with the dead with the candles, when the Protestant Reformation occurred and Catholicism in certain places were illegal, when we're looking at something like Britain, people would light candles because this is what they did for hundreds of years in Catholicism, and they would pray for the dead. That's sometimes when we have rumors with with candles and stuff. And we're going to talk about Day of the Dead in another video. We've got another Halloween special for you, and we'll go into more detail with that. But anyway.
Yeah. I also want to address the somewhat incorrect association that Halloween was derived from the Celtic or Pagan.
Yeah, so now we're going to bang out these myths.
Yeah. So
okay, so Celtics or Celtics. Tom, where is that coming from?
Yeah, let's talk about the history of the Celtics. So they were an ethnic group of people in Europe, living in early Europe, and they kind of started towards the center of Europe, where kind of modern-day Germany and Poland is now, and they spread out across Europe. So they eventually made their way west to Spain and Portugal, and then up north to the UK region, modern-day UK region now, so Ireland, Scotland, that sort of place. And they've even gone as far east as Turkey. So you can kind of see it's a diverse people.
With different religions, different cultures.
Yeah.
It's a Greek word that's used for a broad scale thing.
Yeah.
So yes,
They're
when they go,
unified
the Celtics did these pagan festivals. They couldn't have. We're talking about somebody from Turkey, and they were talking about Irish people.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go into real quick, there were harvest festivals.
Mm-hmm.
There is no historical documentation in these harvest festivals that were religious at all. There's no actual historical evidence. These people claiming that this stuff is pagan, it's pagan, there's no evidence. That's like me saying, and this goes to Catholic Answers, I love that guy.
Yeah.
You're saying there's somebody in the Caribbean that is doing these religious things, but we can't name the person. We don't have any documentation of them. We're just saying, well, they're there.
Right.
But there's no evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And these harvests, you're going to go, well, what were the harvests about? There were bonfires, there were party, there was drinking. Well, of course, when wintertime hits, the war has to stop. When wintertime hits, trade stops.
The harvest stops.
Yeah, this is the big event of the year because, like, when you're talking medieval times and stuff, again, when the winter hit, you couldn't move your army. You weren't fighting in the winters. You weren't, the harvest stopped. You can't eat the food. So anyway.
Right. Yeah. So our argument with explaining why Halloween isn't associated with Samhain, and Samhain is the pagan word for that celebration, and all that means is summer's end. Samhain literally means summer's end. Right, so that celebration is believed to be celebrated by the Celtics because that's when the end of the harvest happened. The weather's starting to get cold, and they're going into that dark time in winter. So,
and again, it had nothing to do with religious demonic stuff, and there's no evidence with these Celtic people that there was even that they were doing it. Yeah. Again, Halloween is a Christian holiday. It is a Catholic holiday, Anyway.
Yeah. So it's not derived from Samhain.
And there's no evidence of that.
And the way we look at it is, Samhain is almost like if you imagine the academic year ending, right? It ends in beginning of summer because it just happens to be what's happening in that time of year where initially in the academic year the school children would come out of school and then they would go help their families on the farm. So historically speaking, that's why we have an academic year like that. Same deal with Samhain, right? It happened to correspond and happened to correlate over Halloween because of just coincidence, right? It wasn't that the Catholic Church was trying to mass convert these pagans and taking their holiday and turning it into Halloween. No, Halloween was always in existence in the early church. So we can debunk that right there. So next thing I want to talk about is
as you're looking for this, I want to go into this. So I'm an actor. That's one of my professions. And this concept of that, when you're wearing a devil costume or you're wearing these costumes are evil and that's pagan. Well, so what is it? As an actor, what if I have to play the devil for a Christian film? My thinking is, and Jim Atkin and Matt Fradd discussed this, and they both agreed, that as long as you're not honoring or worshiping Satan, it's not evil. Storytelling, there has to be a bad guy. Just because you're playing the bad guy doesn't mean you're worshiping evil. I mean, you might be teaching people through this story, through you playing the bad guy, that evil is wrong. So what is it? Every actor is evil? Because if you're claiming that a child can't wear a Halloween costume like a vampire, that's worshiping the devil, then every single actor must be sinning because there has to be a bad guy in an acting film. Shout out to Jim Atkins.
Very good. Okay, so the next point I want to touch on now, and this is pretty much like the pinnacle of what we're going to talk about in this episode, is how do we as Christians celebrate Halloween? What do we reflect in our minds? What do we reflect upon when we enter the season of Halloween, right? So I have a verse here from Sirach 7:36 that says, "In all you do, remember the end of your life, and then you will never sin," right? So Halloween, it specifically is celebrating and honoring and remembering the dead. That's part of it. But also, it's supposed to be a time of reflection on our own mortality, right? So we remember our own death, and we remember that we are here for a finite amount of time on earth. Our death is imminent. It's going to happen at some point. We don't know when, but it is supposed to be a time to sort of take a step back and realize, okay, how am I living my life as a Christian? How are things going with me? Death is somewhere on the horizon there, so reflect on that, right? And I have some further quotations here from Thomas Kempis from his book, The Imitation of Christ. If you have ever seen a man die, remember that you too must go the same way. In the morning, consider that you may not live till evening, and when evening comes, do not dare to promise yourself the dawn. Be always ready, therefore, and so live that death will never take you unprepared. Right? So what he's basically saying there is live life with kind of the expectation in the back of your mind that you could die at any time. Tomorrow's never promised. Don't let death take you unprepared. Don't let death take your soul unprepared. So that's really the crux of us as Christians celebrating Halloween.
It's about death, and it's about honoring the souls, and about honoring the saints, and this is a huge celebration. and even in the early Catholic Church, you have people dressing up as Joan of Arc. There's photos you can see, it was it was a Christian thing,
Right. And one last thing I want to close on before you can go on and talk about Pope Gregory, but so I was brought to this was brought to my attention by Father Mike Schmitz, and in one of his episodes he was talking about the Bone Church, right? So for those of you that don't know,
where is that?
So it's in the Czech Republic, but there's actually multiple Bone churches. So they're kind of spread out, mostly in Europe, I believe. But one famous one is the one that's in the Czech Republic, called the Church of Celtic Ossuary. Might have mispronounced that, but it's in the Czech Republic, and it's essentially a church that it's either made out of bones or there's just bones of real dead people in the church. All of, like, how if you go into a church you see stained glass windows and icons sometimes. Same deal, but it's bones. It's all real life bones.
Whose bones?
Well, we don't know for a fact. We don't know for sure, but they are real bones. Like, they are not fabricated. But one specific thing that is noteworthy about this church is when you walk in, the first thing that you see when you walk in is a quote above the arch or above the banner of the church that says, "What you are now, we once were. What we are now, you shall be." Right? So it's like the dead talking to you. Again, another aspect is to reflect on your own life. Remember that you are here for a finite amount of time. Death is on the horizon. So it's supposed to bring you into that state of reflection when you walk into that church. So now you can go on and
so no, I mean, basically, like what I said earlier, Pope Gregory III was the one that actually made it a doctrine and made the holiday official with the dates. And I guess Tom and I, what we want you to know is that, Halloween is okay for your kids to celebrate. It's okay for you to celebrate. It's a beautiful celebration of people that you've lost in your past, honoring people in your past, and honoring these great church fathers and daughters that we can use as role models. That most of the time the saints, they suffered and they lived horrible lives, but they kept moving forward for Christ. They picked up their cross and kept moving forward, and that is the answer to suffering. I think the biggest claim, and I'm going on a sidetrack, that people have issues with any religion is the answer to suffering. And our God, Jesus Christ, died on that cross. He became sin.
Right.
Sunum bonum. And he showed us that even him, our God, suffered. And suffering is a part of life. And anyway, happy Halloween. I hope we get a bunch of negative comments.
Yeah, from all of our fans.
From all of our fans. I hope we get told that we can't pray to the dead. I hope that, and then we'll just keep making more videos. So please,
Happy Halloween. God bless you.
Yes. Amen.
Amen.
We gotta do the peace be with you.
Peace be with you.